about June market. She's gonna give us the insights of what's going on in the market. Hello, hello. Now we are live all uh, in all our platforms. Elisa, how are you doing?
Hi. Glad to reconnect again this week for another market update for
Thank
the
you so
GTA
much.
of Toronto.
Yes, I really appreciate you putting so much effort in these graphs. This is very interesting news in the market. I mean, definitely, I feel like it's changing by the minute. um,
Yeah.
every single month this year has been so different. It's like it starts and then it backs a little bit and then it restarts and then it's like a little bit of a dancing.
Yeah, it's like a
But
rubber band, right
like
now.
a rubber band, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Elisa,
I want to mention something. It was so funny to me. For everybody who's listening, Carla mentioned to me like she doesn't look like she's here. And so I asked her, "Do you feel we're on a different planet?" And she said, "Yeah, the market's behaving like very different from what we knew, right?"
very different. Yes, I think what I want the audience to know is what are the strengths that we have, what are the opportunities that we can have, especially for first-time home buyers or people that probably would like to, graduate from a condo going into another type of um, property. So definitely, if you can, translate all these graphs into goodness.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Before we get into the graphs, I would like to just mention a little bit for those who really have not been following this, because this is in and out for you and I every day. So I just would like to
Yeah,
just give a little bit of intro. We're going to be comparing June 2024 versus June 2023. So that would be like a year comparison to see how actually the market has been evolving and how we can compare it. So just to mention, like really the June 2024 home sales in the greater
yeah,
Toronto area, what we call the GTA, were actually again lower in comparison to the same month last year. Well, having said that, the Bank of Canada's rate cut last month provided some initial relief for home buyers. However, the June 2024 sales results suggest that most home buyers will require multiple rate cuts before they move forward. And as you know, we have seen this, how it has been moving this last month. It has been slower. So the results we're going to show in the infographics are not any surprise to us. However, if there is no good news from the Bank of Canada by the end of this month, I speculate, right, another 25 points decrease at least by early September, which should be, I guess, September the 4th. And backing this up is like a multinational market research firm, Ipsos. It's a French uh, company. They suggest in their last polling for the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, which just suggests the cumulative rate cuts of 100 basis points or more are required to really boost the home sales by any significant amount. And that will mean that when we reach that point, we are back into the bidding wars. And if you're a first-time home buyer, we invite you to avoid that, trying to do something this year before all those 100 basis points take into effect. We are getting lower. We are getting into some cuts. But again, Carla, what is your feedback here? I know we're having conversation. You think is they're gonna go lower in
yeah.
July? I say in September.
I I I do think that there is a little bit of movement in the States and also in Canada that could suggest for the Bank of Canada to start cutting rates again this month, later this month. I do think that is going to happen 60%. But who knows? We only find out once it happens, right? Like anything can happen between today and the announcement. Remember that there are a lot of things that can affect the decision, and one of them could definitely be the issue that is ongoing between Russia and Ukraine. At the beginning of the week, there was unfortunately an attack from Russia to Ukraine, and it hit a kids' hospital. So
Yeah.
this is not gonna be taken very lightly by many nations. So definitely could mean something at the end of the day, right? But who knows? Let's see what they say and see how everything evolves.
Yeah. What we see here, thank you for pulling up this graph, Carla. This is solely Toronto, the city of Toronto. So before I try to talk about the city of Toronto specifically, just broadly for the entire GTA, which is several cities around Toronto, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board reported a 16.4% decline in home sales compared to the same month last year. That's a significant number, right? However, again, listings, that means the homes that come to the market for sale, increased for the same period 12.3%. That means there's some inventory there, and the prices, as a buyer, you can start negotiating your prices. And both parts have been benefited because the average selling price has not been really increasing. It just went down 1.6%. And I'm talking the entire GTA. This number decreased from 1,162,000 to 1,181,000 from the previous year, right? So that was like $20,000 only. So the decrease was not significant. But yeah, I'm gonna go right. Having said that, I'm gonna jump into. Can you go back to the Toronto, please? You're showing me town now. Yeah, the city of Toronto. So that was the GTA, and we talk about the city of Toronto. We don't see that decrease in the average selling price. We actually see a little bit increase of 2%. So like actually Carla mentioned before, people are starting to go back to the city. They're investing again in all these great housings and condo buildings we have around. Understand that this average includes all these kind of properties. However, the number of sales decreased for more than 21%. So the market, yes, has been slower. And after looking at the city of Toronto, yes, let's go now to the Midtown, which I like to put it right after Toronto. So we see the higher price first, the Midtown, which is traditionally the more affluent area in Toronto, just above downtown. And the average selling price increased not significantly, only 0.87%, that reached $1,923,000. However, the number of sales in this area also decreased almost 10%. But now if we compare this affluent area versus what they have below, right in downtown Toronto, we're going to see now, and it's mostly condo buildings, the average selling price here is $760,000, which also showed a little decrease, little bit more significant, of 5.43%. And the number of sales, get this, decreased almost 30% comparing June 2023 versus June 2024. So the number of sales was significantly lower. But what we're reading here, actually what Carla mentioned originally, is that now we're entering a market which is great for investors to start buying resale condos instead of pre-con. We can have like a private conversation. Why is that so? And the closing cost for pre-con traditionally would make it versus the resale condos before. Right now, it's not that so, which are really high. So right now, it's really cheaper to buy a resale condo than a pre-con. if you have the liquidity starting, that minimum 20% required at the start of the buy. So this is a great one. And now we're going to review the west side of Toronto versus the east side of Toronto, which traditionally are much more residential. There's not that many buildings. So if you help us to see now on the screen something for, yeah, so here we have the next infographic talks about the west end of our city of Toronto, where the average selling price decreased 3.2%. And it ended up at $1,250,000, which a number of sales decreasing 20%, which also is really big. But you see the dip in the price was not that large. And if we compare this price versus what's happening in Toronto, is where the average selling price, instead of being $1,250,000, is of, can we see the east side? And please, the infographic. Hello. Thank you. Yes. So again, repeating. So what we see here on the east end of Toronto, the average selling price is $1,100,000, which it's lower than in the west end right now, and the decrease also was almost of 1%. However, the number of sales decreased almost 30%, which is a large, is a larger amount of big amount. It's challenging right now for the sellers, which is very different for the buyers who have much more options. However, many buyers are not coming out yet, like we mentioned previously when we started this live. They are still sitting on the fence, expecting the interest rates to still go lower. My tongue went blah, blah, I couldn't say anything. So having said that, let's explore a little niche on the east end of Toronto, which again, we are dissecting always smaller and smaller different areas. Now we have here an area called the Beaches, which is in the south side by the lake. And here can we see the next slide, please, Carla? Thank you. So here in this niche in the Beaches, we can see that the average selling price ended up this June 2024 at $1,600,000, which an increase. Finally, we see a community that has increased the selling price. It increased almost 15%. It also has to do because in this area, we have different kind of properties. So if you end up selling 2 or 3 very high-end properties, that is going to skew the average of the entire sale price, right? The number of sales didn't decrease much, so it's still a very desirable area right now as well. So that's why also the price could have been sustained. Now, but if you are entering the market and you don't have those 20% down payment for your investment property or for your first home, or even if you're moving from a condo, as you know, you need to put 20% down payment when you are purchasing anything above $1 million, then you can look in Durham region. Durham region is offering right now many homes below $1 million. And in fact, the average for June 2024 is showing us that the average selling price in the Durham region is $956,000, which actually is a dip of more than 4% compared to June 2023 from the previous year. So if you are not familiar with the area and you are not specifically looking in a niche, so just go for one weekend this beautiful summer with your family and explore the beaches in the Durham region, either in Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, Oshawa, and you will find out that why these areas are actually growing and why many Torontonians are deciding to live here and commute to their workplaces in downtown Toronto. So yeah, so basically that's it as in a nutshell what we have for these months. And Carla and I, we will share with you next week information about the condo market.
The condo market, yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Elisa. Next week is going to be pretty interesting because it's going to be based on by location, right? So it's gonna be very interesting to see what the condo market has to offer. Thank you so much, Elisa, as always. Very useful information for all the people who are, on the fence or just wanna, follow the market and see where is everything at and why not. We're always here, more than happy to share all the information. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.
No, thank you, Carla. Ciao.